Yeah,
My God, is it beautiful?
It's so good. That episode 10 is one of the best episodes of anything I think I've ever watched. The Slave of the Scorpion is one of the best episodes of anything, because like I'm loving that show all the way through. I'm like, this is a great show. I'm loving it. These great little episodic things. And then suddenly from out of the water, plot just enters and just like they throw all the plot at you. They've expanded this world. It's not just like a prehistoric world. It's like actually, it's this isolated prehistory kind of world. And now you've got this other stuff over here where you have these like ancient Arab Muslim cultures, and there's a giant demon lord who's trying to enslave them. And it's like, oh, this is gonna be amazing. And then they cut all that off before season 2, and I'm just flipping tables. Can't wait for it to happen. Oh, super stoked about it. I cannot wait for season 2.
I'm glad you.
Quick question, ladies and gentlemen. What's the most precious resource in the world? It's your time. So why would you spend it on the news? The Donut is a news brand, and they think the news absolutely sucks. It's boring, dry, and negative. So negative. It's near impossible to read and not think humanity's doomed. That's where the Donut comes in. They turn this time-consuming, anxiety-ridden chore into a quick, guilty pleasure that ensures you'll never be the boring one in a conversation. Their goal is to make the news quick, engaging, and easy to understand. And did I mention, it's all 100% free. They set out to design a better, faster, more fun way to stay up to date on the world's happenings. One that makes you feel smarter, happier, and more hopeful about the future. It's fast, fun, and 100% free. Subscribe today at thedonut.co/cartoon. That's the donut, THEDONUT.co. Hey guys, it's your host Julian. This week I sit down with resident cartoon junkie and the host of the Animation Destination podcast, Brandon Jones. We talk a bunch, and I do mean a bunch, of Genndy news, the importance of Samurai Jack, and a lot about Primal. We also chat about our favorite animated and live-action fight scenes, and we get into the weeds over some wrestling talk. I hope you all enjoy this as much as I did, and go check out Brandon's podcast. If you like this one, you're going to love the Animation Destination. Enjoy the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to What's in My Head podcast. I'm your host, Julian, and today I'm joined by host extraordinaire from the Animation Destination podcast, Mr. Brandon Jones. Brandon, how are you, sir?
Thank you very much. I'm doing very well. Julian, how you doing today?
Oh, fantastic, man. So a couple weeks ago, ladies and gentlemen, I did a podcast collaboration with old Brandon here, and it was a fun time. We went on there, talked some cartoons, talked some shit, had a good time. And now he is returning the favor and coming on my podcast, man. So before we even get started, man, I would love to know how your journey started with Animation Destination.
Oh, let's see. How did that all happen? No, that was way back. I'm an old man, so I'm trying to think. No, it's way back in 2014, I think, and I want to say 2013, just before that. The comic shop around here, the local comic shop that my friend Brian Barrow runs, the Destination. I ran into those guys around 2012, 2013, around that time. And he started doing a podcast of his own called Nerdstalgia, running off of there. And I was always just kind of like, it was always in my head, like, I would love to do a website or something dedicated to animation. That's always been like a thing of mine. And I just never got it off the ground, never really took that next step and everything. And then I noticed that he's doing a podcast, and he started to like get a bunch of like stuff for a studio and stuff. And he was basically talking about like reaching out to getting other podcasts and doing kind of a network thing. So I was the first pitch. I just went up to him and said, this is after we've been friends for a little while. And I'm just like, yeah, I just want to pitch the idea. It's like, what would you call it? As an Animation Destination? Because it's, the destination. He loved that. And I was like, all right, sweet. And so we just started getting all that together, and during that time frame that we were getting it together, I looked for animationdestination.com, and it was taken by some rando who had like a blog that hadn't yeah, right. He hadn't updated since like 2007 or something, but it's just this blog that's just sitting there. So I'm just like, man, oh well, forget it. It's not a big deal. And then I just kept checking like year after year, and I think in 2016 it came up for availability. Like just I caught it when it expired and I grabbed it immediately. And then I just redirected that right to my my podcast. It had already been going for 2 years at that point, but it was well before weekly back then. Weekly podcasting didn't happen until about I started doing the weekly podcast I want to say 3 years ago. I started doing weekly, so hence why I'm not above 300 episodes, having started in 2014. But that's kind of how it started. It just was a thing I always wanted to do. I had an idea for a website. Website idea is still on hold. I'm still trying to get that to go. And being a web designer by trade, you'd think I could get that up and running a little bit faster, but it's hard to make that your hobby too. So, a little bit rough. So, but yeah, that's how I got into it. I just sort of like jumped on the DNN, and we all kind of made our own efforts. And I'm the only one posting a podcast on that anymore. But we're trying to get more people on to do some more podcasts on the network. So it should be pretty fun.
That's pretty cool, man. And I haven't done one of these, at least as far as one of my episodes, in quite some time. Last one I did, and his name was Ricky Bang, and it's Spoiler Force podcast. Shout out to the homie. That's another one. If you love anime, if you love cosplay, if you love just that entire Japanese geek culture, man, that one's one of my favorite ones to listen to. And then I'll link you up with him, because I've heard some anime talk on yours, and it's always fun to go on other podcasters, because we're all trying to do the same thing. It's networking at the end of the day, man. You jump on one, you kind of switch audiences, and you have somebody else jump on yours, and like I said, you just trade audiences and you build, you grow. And then through word of mouth, I've noticed is generally how most people find this. Like, you could share 100 different episodes, or you could share this, share that. But generally, when you go on somebody else's and you say, hey, you gotta check this one out. If you like this one, you're probably gonna like this one. That's when you start to see the real audiences build that foundation for your audience, your listeners, or your watchers, if you're watching this on YouTube. So I like doing this. I don't do it as much as I should. So I want to start doing this more often, because it's fun just talking to other folks, because you can talk to anybody in the animation field, pop culture field, comic book field. But very few of them have done podcasts. Like, I've noticed that a lot of people I've had on haven't done a podcast before, which I thought was crazy, because I was like, God damn, in today's day and age, everybody has a podcast. Literally everybody has a podcast. So like I said, these are always super fun to do. So we kind of see, and we kind of heard how you got to doing what you're doing. And ladies and gentlemen, I 100% say, if you like this podcast, you're going to love Animation Destination, because I sit on here and everybody else talks. I chime in every once in a while, and if you listen and read the comments, people tell me to shut the fuck up quite often. So I talk a little bit too much. But getting to sit here and hear somebody that can do it solo and carry the weight load like you carry, like you'll have guests on and stuff like that. When you guys are doing your most recent episode, the ranking of what was it, Love, Death, and Robots. It's crazy to see how you do it. I'm always at awe when there's folks like you that can go on there and singly just talking to a microphone or look into a camera and talk. I'm like, God damn, I'm self-conscious. I look at myself, I'm like, God damn, I'm ugly. Nobody wants to see just me. So I try to, my tech guy goes and makes the camera smaller so they can just look at the guest I have on. But like I said, man, if you guys like this one, you're going to love Animation Destination. They do it right over there. It's strictly animation, strictly just having a good time and having fun. But some big news popped up. Usually I don't do any news, because this one is going to be released a couple weeks from now. So it won't be as topical, but it's my favorite animator of all time, man, Mr. Genndy Tartakovsky, right? Just signed a huge deal with Cartoon Network and Warner Brothers Studios, man. The same way people look at folks like Chuck Jones, Tex Avery, Bob Clamp at Walt Disney that's how I look at Genndy Tartakovsky. I loved one of your single episode, or one of your earlier episodes you did. It was a creator spotlight episode of Genndy, man. So not so much just talking Genndy, but that entire era of Cartoon Network, right? So that 90s era, man. How old are you in the 90s when all of that's going off? 94, 95, 96.
94, 95. I was, Lord, I'm 38 now. So what is that?
I failed math.
About 20 years ago. So I was in my teens for sure when Samurai Jack and all that stuff came out, and McCracken was rocking with Powerpuff Girls and stuff like that. So that cartoon. I remember vividly being in my room and my tiny television that's in my giant frame that needs a bigger television. I don't know. I like the tinier television for some reason, but and that was I'd air it all the time. I'd record episodes of Samurai Jack. I recorded all the episodes on a VHS. If kids don't know what the hell that is, that's a little weird magnetic strip thing we used to record things on. But Genndy getting that deal was a big deal for me, because he keeps going back to things, which is great. Like the fact that he got to finish off Samurai Jack, like that was just freaking amazing. Like I couldn't believe that was that was something we got to see, because that was always just like we'll never see the end of Samurai Jack. It was done, like there's no way they're going back to that. And then Adult Swim's just like, oh yeah, we're gonna just finish off Samurai Jack with a season 5, and it blew my mind. And it was like utterly amazing. The first 3 episodes of that series, of that season, are mind-blowingly beautiful, and I don't know how they even accomplished it. But it hit all the nostalgia. It hit all those moments of his stuff. Dexter's Lab was always a huge one. When I was in elementary, I was way younger when Dexter's Lab hit, because TBS had that block. I don't know if you were old enough to remember that, but TBS had a block that was Dexter's Lab and SWAT Cats and Two Stupid Dogs, and that was their little cartoon block when TBS was just getting big and everything. So I remember watching Dexter's Lab on there, transitioned over to Cartoon Network, and it just kind of blew up from there, along with SWAT Cats too. Sadly, SWAT Cats didn't get a comeback until recently, but we'll be seeing that again too. But the Genndy thing was great to hear, because it's always nice to hear him come back home, because he like Cartoon Network's kind of always been good to him. He was gonna they were gonna do the Samurai Jack film. They were fully in it, and then the Powerpuff Girls movie bombed, like just slaughtered at the box office. So that made all the executives panic, and they canceled the Samurai Jack thing like immediately, which was very sad. But luckily he got to do that way later. You don't really think about like they're going to bring a guy back in and bring it in later. I think the only thing they really like axed of his, I think, too early, was Symbionic Titan. I think Titan was dope. I would love to see them go back to that.
I have a feeling they will.
I don't know if they can, though.
I think they will.
I would love to, but it was also written off as a tax write-off. So I don't know if it can actually be aired on a Turner network because of that law. I don't know if that lasts that long. Like there's probably like a cutoff point, and Symbiotic Titan's old enough to where it probably is past that threshold. But like after you cut something off and say that's a tax write-off, you can't air episodes or make new things of it for a while. It's like some weird law. I remember reading an article about that. It's very bizarre.
Hey there, I'm Isaiah, and welcome to my channel, 47 Cartoon Guy, a channel dedicated to all things animation and nostalgia. I do retrospectives, short comedic videos, and remember videos. If I can get away with it, that is. I have many videos dedicated to some of my favorite animation properties, such as nostalgic lookbacks on Cartoon Network's golden age, and also videos focusing on Scooby-Doo, one of my favorite cartoons of all time. My most recent series, The Fantastic Legacy of Hanna-Barbera, dives into the history of the legendary animation studio and its founders. If you love my videos, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click the bell icon so you'll know when I have a new video up. And also consider donating to my Patreon, where you can support the channel and get early access to videos, behind the scenes pics, and even view exclusive future Remember videos. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you soon. Until next time, I'm 47 Cartoon Guy, and I gotta fly.
But it's good to see him come back, because Sony, when he worked for Sony, like I feel like they just pulled his strings a lot. And Sony Animation is doing good stuff now, but during that time, it was like, hey, we got this Adam Sandler vehicle, direct this for us, the Transylvania or Hotel Transylvania. And we'll see what else we can do. It's like, and he pitches a Popeye thing. There's a little Popeye short, if anybody's seen that. It's a CGI Popeye short that he directed himself, and he wanted to make a Popeye movie. And Sony just said, "No, we're not doing a Popeye movie." After they gave him a short and said, we're doing it, they said no. And he's like, all right, that's fine. Whatever. They're not survive. Hey, can you do Hotel Transylvania 2? So he goes in, he does Hotel Transylvania 2. And then he's like, all right, I got this my own thing called, what was it called? It's a great concept about two parents, separated parents going into the mind, the imaginary world of their child to bring him back, because he gets like lost in like an imaginary world. And so like these two parents have to repair their relationship while going through their son's like imaginary world. Can you imagine? That's what it was called. And the concept art looked amazing. It looked so good. And just nothing came of it. They just kept saying, yeah, we'll do it. Hey, here's Hotel Transylvania 3. Can you do that one? He's just like, all right, fine. And he's in most interviews, he's very cordial, but you can tell he's sick of those Hotel Transylvania movies. But he's a cordial dude. He's not going to just like rail somebody. And eventually they just axed that too. They couldn't like let him do that. And it's a shame. It's a shame because like they had a talent on their hands and they just kind of let it go. And again, Sony's course corrected. They're doing the Spider-Verse movies. They did Mitchell's versus the Machines. So, they're doing good stuff now, but it's good that, he's back on track with Cartoon Network. He's got the one new series in season 2 of Primal coming out very soon. So super stoked about that.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
I don't know if we talked about it on your podcast. I feel like we did. Maybe we just mentioned it, or maybe it was just something in passing. Because remember us talking for some time before and then talking for some time after.
Yeah.
After we hit record.
Yeah.
But Primal. Yeah. My God, is it beautiful?
It's so good. That episode 10 is one of the best episodes of anything I think I've ever watched. The Slave of the Scorpion is one of the best episodes of anything, because like I'm loving that show all the way through. I'm like, this is a great show. I'm loving it. These great little episodic things. And then suddenly from out of the water, plot just enters and just like they throw all the plot at you. They've expanded this world. It's not just like a prehistoric world. It's like actually it's this isolated prehistory kind of world. And now you've got this other stuff over here where you have these like ancient Arab Muslim cultures. And there's a giant demon lord who's trying to enslave them. And it's like, oh, this is going to be amazing. And then they cut all that off before season 2. And I'm just flipping tables. Can't wait for it to happen. Oh, super stoked about it. I cannot wait for season 2. Oh.
I'm glad you brought up the flipping tables, because there's 2 things in recent history that I've gotten so upset about. And it's just because so with that one, when it ended the way it ended, I'm like, oh dude, here we go. The next episode, this is going to be great. And then it said, will continue or to be continued. I'm like, son of a bitch. No! I was so hot. And then we just finished part 1 of season 4 of Attack on Titan. Like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there and they literally, do you watch Attack on Titan?
Yep.
Okay. So I know you probably already seen part 2. So I haven't.
Yeah.
Because I'm a dub guy. Everybody sits there and says, oh, you got to watch sub. You got to watch it. It's you miss so much in translation, or so much is out of context and all this other stuff. I'm like, yeah, I get that. But once I heard some of these voice actors, this is just like, I got to support these guys because I love what they do. I mean, I got into anime through Dragon Ball Z, like most people did in America. And then Chris Sabatas Piccolo led me into My Hero. And then My tech guy, Larry, actually told me, he's like, hey, you should check out Attack on Titan. I'm like, nah, man, you should check out My Hero. And he was like, why? And I'm like, look, man, guess what? I'll trade you 1 episode for your 1 episode.
Right.
And then he was like, all right, cool. So he said he was going to watch just 1 episode of My Hero. Ended up watching almost the entire series in just a week or 2. Yeah. And I look at him and he's like, all right, well, I finished it. I'm like, good episode, right? He's like, yeah, it was a good series. I'm like, what do you mean a good series? He's like, well, I already finished it. I'm like, dude. And he was like, what do you think of episode 1? And I was like, well, shit, I didn't really watch it yet. I was like, I haven't had time. And this was like last year, right?
Right.
I got on, I had a couple days off, and then we started watching Attack on Titan a few months ago. And I'm like, I was hooked. I was like, what the hell is going? This is a beautiful show. And then we get to where we're at. And it took us like 2 months to get through the series because you're just working and having a baby now. Yeah. Having a second kid now. I have a lot less time to do anything that's not like baby stuff or work or try to get some sleep in there.
Right.
so we're watching it, and then the season ends, and it's them. What you think is going to happen, at least for me, and like I said, you're a lot farther than I am, but they're gonna make amends. Like the transport titan is gonna point out where the traders are, and then she turns around and she points to Aaron, and then the jaw titan comes up, and you're like, oh shit, right? And then I'm cooking dinner, right? And then so I've got the TV going on in the living room, and then it starts playing Tokyo Ghoul. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Why is it? I'm not done with this show yet. Like, what happened? So I thought my kid had hit, next episode, or he might
right.
remote. So I'm going back in there, and I'm hitting Attack on Titan, and it's going back to season 1. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Right? I'm getting pissed, and because you can't end an episode like that, right? And then not expect like you not be upset because some other show's playing. Like, what are these people doing to me right now? Right? I took it real personal.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there, and my son's like, my oldest son Hayden, he's like, Dad, we finished part 1, and I was like, we didn't. There's only 17 or 16 episodes. We didn't finish part 1. And he's like, Dad, we finished part 1. That's why there's a part 2. I'm like, listen, I don't need your logical thinking right now. I need you to be on board with me and just as mad that we don't have. He's like, well, we can watch it in subtitles. So I was like, go to your room, man. I don't want to listen.
Punished. So, no dinner.
Yeah, turns out that it's only part 1, and they only have part 1 on Hulu. But my God, is that such a beautiful show?
Yeah.
But just flipping it back to Genndy for just a second, like I said, those are the 2 shows that I got really hot when it was just at the end of the show, waiting for the next episode because of cliffhangers they leave it on. Yeah. Did you ever play World of Warcraft?
I never did. No.
Right, no. So for
I'm aware of it.
Whenever a new expansion would come out, you would have a new world open up. So when I'm seeing this whole new world open up, that's what it reminded me of. It had me flashbacks to World of Warcraft, where it's like, oh, you knew about this land. Now you've got this other land that we don't know about, and he doesn't know about. Spear doesn't know about. And then you got to think like, oh shit, how are they going to get him and Fang across the water? And you start seeing them build shit. And I'm so curious to see where they go from here. Where do you think they're going to go from here?
I think we're probably he's probably gonna be setting sail. I think he'll figure out how to make a boat, some kind of raft that can hold Fang, which is going to be ridiculous, but it's fine. It'll be great. I think he'll make like a tiny. They'll do a whole episode where he like learns how to make a boat, and then he'll find some like coastal tribe that like makes a really good boat or something. Real Samurai Jack, like trade, like learn the trade episode kind of thing. And then they'll sail off, and then it might be like a one of those One Piece Island arc type things where he just like goes to a new area and then like moves on and keeps going and keeps trying to track and find Mira and find these like scorpion cultists and stuff. I think that'll be his, he'll start to explore the world outside of where he is. And I think by the end, he'll probably get to like the temple where like the scorpion god is or something, or he'll find Mira's tribe, something like that, and then it's off to save Mira. It'll be great. So
what if, like, I didn't even think about that, like what if his universes are interconnected somehow, right, with him and Samurai Jack? And then you remember the episode in Samurai Jack where Jack's learning from the African tribes?
Yep.
Dude, what if we don't have to see that same tribe, but what if we see elements of something like that,
right?
And then he ties in both Primal and I would literally and physically and mentally and emotionally lose my shit as a 33-year-old man. I cry enough as it is anyways. I would cry extreme tears of joy if I see that. But if you start seeing, he's like the Kevin Smith, since he's signing Warner Brothers and Cartoon Network, right? He's like the Kevin Smith where he's connecting, or Kevin Feige, if you want to be a little bit more upper class, if you will, even though I like Kevin Smith. That wasn't a shot at Kevin Smith. I love Kevin Smith movies.
Right.
But it's just, what if they tie in those universes and then Jack and then Spear? I just think it'd be dope as shit if that happened.
Right. Yeah. I do love me some continuity. It'd be pretty crazy if they just, even if it's just like a fun little cameo thing or something, even it's just like a little spark of like, here's the thing here's that jar that Jack drank from or something that one time, something really small. It'd be really cool.
Or you see the Scotsman in the background.
No, that'd be crazy.
So
Magic runes. But I wanted, here's one thing about the finale of Samurai Jack, and it's my one hang up with the whole thing. We never got to see what happened to the future after he went back and defeated Aku. And that I wanted a flash forward that kind of like gave like a everything's okay in that world now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I even
Closure.
wrote it in. I wrote it in my head. I had
Okay.
a terrible fan fiction moment, and I wrote it all in my head. I know exactly what I would have done. I would have had the Scotsman on his deathbed, surrounded by all of his daughters, right? He lived his life, had his daughters, had all that stuff, like without Aku ever intruding his life. You go through all the splendor of like the world of the future, and you have the Scotsman there, and and it doesn't make sense that he would end up like that same way, obviously, because like Aku changed the entire world. But whatever, we'll just for sake of the everything's okay ending, we'll just say that he ended up in this situation. He's on his deathbed, and like with all of his daughters, and he's just like super happy, and then he kind of has like this little moment of like realization that Jack is like back home, and he's there, and he has this one memory of like Jack like existing when no one else does, because they wouldn't, obviously, because time would do it. And then his daughters would kind of ask him like, it's like, what like, what are you smiling about? It's like, just Scottish magic, and like just like a little bit of like his Scottish runes like has that connection still to Jack, would be really cool. And then everything would be okay. That's the one thing I really wanted, was something to tie in that like the future is all okay now, because it just kind of ends on a really sad note with Jack losing I can't remember her name. Dang it. I'm totally blanking on her name, but yeah, it's really sad. But
I've got her.
Yeah,
I don't think I have the pop anymore. God, Ashi.
Ashi, that's it.
Thank
you.
I couldn't remember. I was like,
I knew it started with an A. I was like, it's an A name, but yeah, Ashi, and it's a very sad ending, and it's somber, but it works for what it is, and I'm still super stoked about it. But yeah, Genndy, man, I'm just stoked to have more Genndy stuff. I'm excited for that unicorn show, whatever the heck it's gonna be. It looks weird and wacky, and just like,
I love it.
Sure, man, whatever you want to
so
do, like I'm in it. So
yeah, just looking at the stuff that they put out on it, I don't think they put very much of anything out there, but I've seen some promotional art, stuff like that. They might have like maybe a 10-second teaser, maybe. I don't know if that's the weed kicking in or if that's me wanting a teaser now. But just the stuff, like the promotional stuff I've seen shared, it looks like Genndy, man. And like I said, I've never went into anything and had bought anything, watched anything, rented anything, viewed anything that his name was attached to that I did not like. And like is the very bare minimum. I mean, I love almost everything he's done. I can't think of anything that I didn't like. And if we're being honest, man, I know I loved the wrap up of Samurai Jack, but if it were to end how it ended in the original 4 seasons, how it ended, I would be okay with it too. I know that's sacrilege. And I'm glad that we got more Genndy, and glad we got more Samurai Jack, because I've said this on this podcast so many times. There's no way in hell that my 12-year-old brain can conceptualize everything that happened in Samurai Jack. It wasn't until me going back and watching the entire series as an adult last year, thinking like, wow, like we were so lucky to have this man, and not just him, because it was people like him and Robert Alvarez and Randy Myers and Scott Wills and Dan Kroll and all these other, William Ray, all these other names that I'll sit here and forget, or not forget, excuse me, but I just can't remember. I don't want to spend 45 minutes just listing off all these people, but it's just all of the people, the men and women that worked on this show, both cast and crew. They gave us something special in this show. And in my opinion, if there was a Mount Rushmore of TV shows and Cartoon Network, Genndy's got 2 spots for me. Samurai Jack and Dexter's Lab is probably going to be on my Mount Rushmore, but Samurai Jack, in my opinion, and there's no slight against any other creator that worked during this time, Samurai Jack was, in my opinion, the greatest thing Cartoon Network did during that era. And I could not have said that 20 years ago. Because just looking at all the stuff, I love Cow and Chicken, I love Dexter's Lab, Courage was fucking great, man. There wasn't anything I didn't like during that era, but looking at it as an adult and like having just perspective on the entire world of animation, knowing what I know about that show from talking to so many people that worked on that show, and listening to all these interviews and watching the director's cuts and the behind the scenes interviews and all this other stuff, that show was so special and so far ahead of its time. So far ahead of its time.
Absolutely. It was the first time that I really, because I was a teenager when it came out, it was the first time I really honestly appreciated like cinematography, like as because I wasn't a big movie guy. I watched, like I had my favorite movies and everything, but I never appreciated like how something was shot or how anything other than like a fight scene by Jackie Chan, like I like any like kung fu shot, like I love fight scenes and stuff like that. And so like that was always something. But when you have like Jack versus the Shinobi and stuff like that, and like just those episodes that are so stylistically intriguing and deliberately so, like it was very clear that what they were doing was they were making like just an artistic expression of of the story they wanted to tell. It was the first time I understood the word visual medium. Like, because I always watched things and I always read, but when I started to appreciate, like when it would go into the letterbox, I understood why it would go into the letterbox. That was like the first time I got that. It's like, oh, so we have a wider field of view for this whole thing. And just like, and how he would have like these, the mountain scaling episode was one of my favorite episodes ever, is when he's just trying to get to the top of the mountain. And it's these three monks, like kind of like reminding him of what his like mission was and like reminds him of his spirit and everything. It's beautiful. But like cinematography, like I remember watching that episode and like, how you'd have like the blocks of frames that would like frame out a scene and stuff. Every single frame in that one, probably not every single one, but a lot of the times when he's going up, all those frames are long and vertical. So he's scaling up this mountain. So every frame is this long vertical trek to where he's at the bottom of the screen and going up, and then he's at the bottom of here and he's fighting the goats, and then he's going up, just this. And I got that, like, when I was probably well below the average age to like understand that, but it was so visually present with Samurai. I'm not saying I was a smart kid, I was a stupid kid, but like I got it because it was so easy to interpret with Samurai Jack. It was so like very artistically forward, so it was just awesome to watch, and it continues to be one of my favorites of all time. And then I can't talk enough about the first 3 episodes of season 5. I think it's a masterpiece. I don't think there's anything better than that. Like, there are things that are better than that, but there's not a whole lot. It's one of the top tier things. Genndy is on the Mount Rushmore for animation for me, period. Like everything he does is gold.
We might have to throw hands if we ever get to meet in person when you say the Avatar is better, because it's just
best, man. It's the best show.
I gotta go back. I gotta go back and watch it as an adult, kind of like I did with Samurai Jack. So
yeah, I definitely recommend that. And if you had a question on there for what my favorite is, it's definitely Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's the best show ever made. It has a contender right now. Arcane is right there.
Yeah,
it's literally like. And that was 1 season of Arcane, and it's like right on the heels.
That's insane.
Of Avatar. So if it doesn't fuck up from where it's at, like if it doesn't completely screw itself over, which I doubt it will, I don't think it will. It will top Avatar, which is shocking to me. I didn't think anything ever would, honestly. Which is another news, by the way. That was dropped today. They announced that there is a trilogy of Avatar movies being worked on. So we're getting a full trilogy of that. So pretty stoked for that.
It's such a great time to be a fan of this medium, man, and just movies and pop culture in general. It just seems like I got picked on so much as a kid for liking comic books and liking cartoons well into my high school years, and then it's just like all these same people that called me a nerd, all these same people that tried to beat me up, because I once I hit 6th grade, I was pretty much like 6'1", 6'2", or 6'1", 6'2", somewhere around there. I ended up topping out at about 6'2". But I had a growth spurt 6th, 7th grade, and that was pretty much how I was. And nobody messed with me anymore. I went from a short little chubby fat kid to a taller fat kid.
That happens.
Yeah, it does, man. And it's crazy how you get picked on for liking something. No fault of your own. You just like something because it's fun. It makes you feel some kind of way, like animation and comic books. Yeah. And then you see 10, 15 years down the road, And you got these same people that were picking on you coming up and asking you questions like, hey man, what do they mean by this in this Marvel movie? I'm like, get the fuck away from me, dude. No, we're not doing this. I was like, you called me a nerd, you called me a loser, you made me feel some type of way in front of the girl I liked when I was in high school. No man, fuck off. We're not doing this. You don't get to enjoy this shit if you didn't get picked on. And it's not like I'm a gatekeeper or anything like that, but it's just like, it's weird how the world, or how the tables have kind of turned, and kind of nerds rule the world now, man.
Right. Yeah. It
But
is interesting because I have a friend who's very normie. He's a very normie type of guy, and he just wasn't into comics and anything like that. He knew of comics, like Batman. Everybody knows Batman, but that was like his thing. But he never read a Batman comic in his life. He just, of course, like grew up on, you know, TAS like us and everything. And Batman the animated series, for people who don't know what TAS is.
You don't know. Pause.
Yeah, if you don't know, why are you watching this?
Yes.
But you know, and it's interesting. Oh, hey, Callie. That's my cat. But he when Thanos showed up for the first time at the end of Avengers #1, and everybody lost their shit. For everybody who knew, you know, like they knew. You know, like me and my dad, we squeed like little girls when that happened, you know. And then like I went to see it with my buddy Eric, and he just kind of leans over and he was like, who the fuck was that? Like, he had no idea. I mean, you know, nobody knows who.
Why is Grimace on the screen?
Right. No, like casual comic fan knows the Infinity Gauntlet and the Infinity Saga and stuff like that. So they don't know Thanos. And now like Thanos is like his boy. That's like his favorite character. And I'm just, you know, it's just funny to me. So, yeah, so it is funny the way that it's become the mainstream and everything. And now everybody who was, you know, enjoying it way back in the day, now we get to look at it and go like, they fucked that up. They didn't get that right. What are they doing? It's like, which I'm guilty of. I can't say I'm not. So, you know, I try to enjoy most things, but then, you know, it's just like every now and then I'm just kind of like, no, they didn't do that right. So I can't get on board with it. So, you know, but
I had a feeling that this is I was hoping to remember. This is what I'm really getting at. So there's 3 things I kind of want to put a pin in, then I'll let you pick which one we go down, and then we'll go to the next ones. So sure. I want you to put a pin in. Like I said, we'll do three topics real quick, and then we'll see which one you want to talk about first. So I want to know about your favorite Jackie Chan movie and favorite fight scene, right? Because I've got a couple of those. Jackie Chan's my guy. Favorite episode or favorite couple of episodes, if you couldn't pick just one, is Samurai Jack. And then the third one, shit, what were we just talking about just a second ago? I was sitting here thinking, I'm like, oh, fuck,
Avatar.
No, not Avatar.
No?
That's not a great show. No, I'm just kidding.
You got to rewatch it, man. I'm telling you, it's good stuff.
I'm gonna have to, man. Oh, speaking of Avatar, since we had this on, man, I'm going to make the connection with you if you'd like to, because he was a phenomenal person. He worked on Dexter's Lab, Powerpuff Girls, Samurai Jack. He was a character designer named Chris Battle. I don't know if we've talked about him. I don't know if like me and you have talked about him. Phenomenal guest, right? I had him on, and I sent him this message because I'm sitting here watching Invincible a couple years ago, or last year, whenever it was when it came on. It just seems like these last couple of years. Right. It could be 5 years ago I watched this, or it could be 6 months. You just don't know at this point, right?
2020 and 2021 are like a vacuum. It's it's simultaneously the longest period and shortest period in history. It makes no sense.
It fucking doesn't. It's literally it's the craziest time anybody's ever fucking dealt with. But I sent him a message because there's this one scene that I play back at least once a week, and it kind of makes me sound like I'm a serial killer, but it's the craziest scene I've ever seen in anything, right? That train scene in Invincible.
Yeah.
That train, right? So I sat there, and then I'm so lucky to have so many of the guests on that I've had. And I'm so lucky that not only will they talk to me on my podcast, but like sometimes they'll reach out to me, and sometimes they'll reach out to them, and then they respond, or I respond. I'm like, wow, this is fucking weird. Like I was like, you guys don't understand. I'm pretty sure you do, because, you know, you're fans of this as well, because you guys had people you looked up to, like Tex Avery, Chuck Jones, all these other people. You guys had these board artists like Bob Camp for Ren and Stimpy, you know, all these people that they looked up to. So I'm pretty sure they geek out the same way we geek out when we see them and talk to them. But I sent him this message, and I was like, dude, I gotta know, what was something like Invincible like for you working in the industry? I was like, I've got to imagine that this changed the game for everything, right? I was like, this, people are going to see this. And he was like, this is the reason that I do animation. This is the reason why this shit is so crazy. And I was like, did it all start with just Invincible? Like, because you started seeing an explosion of animation right after Invincible, right? And then a lot of the stuff was in production at the same time. So it's not like one preceded the other, but it was just, they did something so crazy with that show, right? And I'm watching that. He's like, you would think that. And then he was like, but I'm going to tell you something. He was like, Invincible could run because of the foundation that Avatar started. He was like, without Avatar, you don't have the level of animation you have. He's like, yeah. He's like, and I'm butchering his words. I know this. So Chris, I know you're listening. I apologize. But he was talking. He's like, Invincible trips and falls if Avatar doesn't happen, because without that, he was like, that's what started like not true adult animation, because you know a lot of adults were watching it back then, but not as much as watching now. And those adults that are watching it now were kids back then, right? So it's the whole chicken before the egg type of thing. And he was like, without that show, he was like, you do not have the level of animation. He was like, during COVID, when Invincible dropped, he was like, we really couldn't talk too much. He was like, it's different, you know, watching stuff, or they would do like little watch parties on the computer and they would watch some cartoons and shit while they were working, or they would FaceTime each other and talk about stuff. And he was like, that shit was crazy. But if he's like, if you want to really know where animation really like took hold in American culture, he was like, it was with Avatar, where he's like, without that one, you don't get the Invincibles or anything else that have come after that. So I got to, you know, tip my cap to you a little bit. You might know what you're talking about, Brandon. So
I mean, again, like to pitch it back to Samurai Jack, and we'll put a pin on my favorite Samurai Jack episode. We'll do that one first. To pitch it back to Samurai Jack, I think it has that same level of things. Like it was that thing, but Cartoon Network was kind of known for doing like things that were, you know, just sort of targeted towards a whole family sort of oriented. Nickelodeon wasn't. It was a kids program. It was a kids network. And then here comes this thing that like adults watch and are like, oh, this is awesome. Like, you know, like I fell in love with it like immediately, and it just got better and better as it went along. And it was just so not like a thing on Nickelodeon. Even more so when Korra came out. Like there was nothing like it on Nickelodeon when Korra came out. And so much so that they literally took it off the air because they didn't have a block for it. So and then stuck it online, fools. You know, I could rail about that for a while. But you know, and like Korra broke a bunch of new ground with that too, with you know, all that stuff. And it was, you know, kind of amazing. Studio Mir, all the stuff that they do now, they started with like Korra and technically Avatar as well. They weren't called Studio Mir then, but it's all the same people, I think, that were at that studio. All the like the outsourced fight scenes and stuff like that. But yeah, like, so to give it up to Samurai Jack, I think it's the same way. You know, it's like I'm not going to begrudge anyone who thinks Samurai Jack is better than Avatar, because absolutely. Like I can't deny that. Are you kidding me? It's Genndy. Like I'm not gonna poo-poo that opinion. But favorite Samurai Jack episode. I thought about this, and I will say it is probably in conglomeration, and it's probably just because it's the first 3 episodes of season 5. But let's say that never came out. Let's say it's my nostalgia, my old school. The mountain one is definitely up there. Climbing the mountain is fantastic, but I think my favorite probably has to go to the Samurai, the Assassins, and the Princess. I think that's the title of it. Great episode. Jack is barely in it, but it's awesome. I don't know if you remember this episode at all. So there's all these assassins that are like coming to this town, and they know Samurai Jack's coming to this town, and they're all like getting ready for him. It's like, I'll be the one to kill Samurai Jack, big buff, huge guy. And then there's these 2 little like Siamese cat twins that are like, we'll get him, and you know, they're really creepy and stuff. And like there's this bounty hunter looking dude that looks like a Boba Fett type or whatever. And it turns out it's this barbarian princess who is being coerced by Aku to get the samurai, because her people will be, enslaved by Aku if she doesn't do this and stuff. And like, then there's this Southern gentleman who's going to do it. And she basically hears all their plans and they'll all fail. And she says, all these plans will fail, So we need to get them together. So they put this whole plan together. Whole episode is them planning out this attack on Jack and everything. And then finally, like, Jack comes strolling in and they all do their part and they all hit it. And Jack just wipes the floor with all 5 of them in a second and then just walks away. And it's just like, it's so brutal in so many ways. Like, because like it's just like, here's this myth of the samurai, and then the myth outlives the myth because he was even better than the plan that they thought would get him. Like, even when they were all working together, he just axes them, just jobs them out in a minute, just complete squash match, right? And then the princess like goes down to her knees and cries because she knows like her people aren't going to be safe. Like, that's like the saddest part, is like, she's not even doing this for like glory or money. She's doing it to save her people. And Jack doesn't even know that. So he just beats this person. And now like, like her people are going to suffer. I wanted them to go back to her and Jack to like go back to them. And like, it was crazy, but yeah, it's just one of my favorite episodes because of all the layers on top of it and all the different animation styles that are in it, because each story is done in a different animation style, which is really cool. So yeah, for sure.
So for sure. I'm gonna have to cheat here and say I just can't pick one. I love so many of them for so many different reasons, whether it's the backgrounds or the fact that there's little to no dialogue. I mean, there's little to no dialogue in a lot of the show, and that's what I love, because it makes you. This was the first show, even as a little kid, I remember just like, why is this one so different? Like, why isn't there talking as much as in the other shows? Like,
yeah.
And then you talked about it. I mean, you would start to see the close up on his eyes, or you would see everything focused on one point. They would force you to look. And it was one of the first shows I remember watching as a kid and really having to sit on the edge of my seat, because you don't know. Like, I was like, I know this is the hero, but Jack's human, man. He's been beaten before, but he keeps coming back. That's it's like Batman. That's, most people say Batman's superpower is his brain. No, it's not. It's his resolve. Right. It's the fact that he keeps going. Like, he's ready. He is the epitome of a superhero. He is willing to give everything. And it's the same thing with Jack. Jack is willing to give everything in the name of peace, in the name of, good. Right. He was there just to take out evil. So when I'm thinking of this show, it's so hard to just pick one. I mean, like I said, I love them for different things, but I love the Chicken Jack episode.
Yeah, Chicken Jack's great.
So fun, man. And you don't think of cockfighting as being funny, but it's just like, this dude kicked the shit out of everybody as a chicken, man. And then you've got Jack getting new shoes. That's a great episode too. Just him coming back in heels, or him coming back in Kiss level boots, or him coming back, him trying to come back and the equivalent to Jordans in the 2000 era. And you think that one. And then the one that I think that plays so much in my head, and it's just how beautiful it was. There's 2 of them really. The good Jack, bad Jack. So it was evil Jack versus a good Jack. That was just the dichotomy between those 2 characters. Like, you could see it, because we're all, and I'm poaching this from somebody that I've heard it before. He's like, we're all one bad day from being a villain. That's all we really are. It's like, we could easily be Joker just as much as we could easily be Batman. It's just happens of circumstances. You could have a bunch of bad days that could break you mentally and emotionally and physically, and you turn into a bad guy. So you see that, and especially me being who I am, I got a little bit of a temper, but seeing that, it's just like, fuck, dude, he could slip into that. I could slip into that. So that one was brilliant that way. And the other one I've never felt more uncomfortable watching was the haunted house one. I think it was season 4. And I can't remember who I was talking to. It was one of the guys, maybe it was Robert Alvarez through Facebook message or something like that. But I'm watching it, and like, I felt like I feel it now, right? Where I'm starting to get goosebumps just thinking about it. And it feels like something is here, right? Like right here. I felt that that episode made me so fucking uncomfortable. I had to turn on all the lights. It made me uncomfortable.
It's shocking how well they got Japanese horror in that, because it's very much like a Japanese horror movie. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
That they were able to nail that on a kid show, but they were allowed to as well. Jack broke a lot of ground with that. There was a lot of adult things on Samurai Jack. Just like things you wouldn't normally see it. No blood. They were able to get away with him cutting robots and stuff. But I remember like the first episode when he cuts through one of the beetles and like all the oil like spills on him and it's like got this red tint to it. And even as like a kid, I'm like, well, I know what you wanted to do. It's like, but you had to settle for oil. I get it. That's fine. So, but it was really fun. And it is funny, like that whole censoring thing, as long as the blood isn't red, you can show blood. So if he's cutting a bug up and it's green, it's like, yeah, it's fine. You can show bug guts. That's fine. It's no problem with that. So
it was such a weird time when you think about the censoring stuff. Like, so
Mm-hmm.
you get a couple of them. So Powerpuff Girls, you got him, right? The devil.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Talk to Craig. He was like, yeah, it was the devil. We just couldn't call it the devil. So we had to come up with something. Then I talked to David Feast from Cow and Chick, and they couldn't call him the devil. They had to call him the red guy, but the pilot was no smoking. It was trying to get Chicken to smoke cigarettes. I was like, that's okay on Cartoon Network, but you can't say the word devil. I was like, wild, man. But just seeing like all of these things that they chose to cut out, nonetheless, man, what they did give us and what they were able to kind of get through really pushed the limits on what a cartoon and a kid show could be. You hear a lot of times cartoons aren't always for kids, or depending on who you listen to, Hollywood, that's all cartoons are. They're for kids. They're for people that don't have the imagination or the vocabulary to understand what movies really are.
Feels like every goddamn Academy Awards has to throw in some line about how like, all right, kids love those cartoon movies. It's like, you fucking old men, like you stupid old fogies. Like, how can you possibly? Anyway, whatever. It's like every time.
It's funny because I remember having this discussion with somebody in one of the groups I'm in with Cartoon Research, I think it was, which is phenomenal. I shout this one out all the time. Jerry Beck's website for cartoon research is phenomenal. Anytime I got to know something, it's the first place I go to because they're usually breaking it pretty quickly. But I was just scrolling through and then I saw something about animation and I was like, man, I really wish the folks that thought about animation just being for kids would see some of this shit, because you can draw so many parallels to life by some of the cartoons that are out now. You could take so much from these things. They're not just for kids, man. It's probably to put the kids there so the parents can go and do some shit and get some stuff done. It's to keep their attention. But if you really watch the stuff we were watching, like you go back and watch Rocko's Modern Life now, everything was over my fucking head. Everything. Right? Same thing with SpongeBob. There was so much. There was one clip I saw of the Flintstones. This is 1960s, right? 61, 62, somewhere around there. They threw a dick joke in there for the Flintstones. Did you see this one?
I don't think I'm familiar with this one. What's this?
So I don't know the episode. I'll find the clip and I'll send it to you after. But it's essentially Barney and Fred talking about, I believe it's a Halloween costume, and then or something along those lines. And then he was like, well, we'll have to get you another helmet, right? And he was like, well, why would I need 3 helmets, or why would I need 2 helmets? Yeah, that's what it was. So he's talking about the big head and then the little head. So he was like, why would I need 2 helmets for it? I'm like, these sons of bitches. I was like, I never would have got that at 6 years old, but I'm so glad I was watching this at 30 years old.
Right.
Kick the fucking desk, man. So switching it back, like I said, I can't pick between just one episode, but those episodes, The Birth of Evil is another great one. That 2-parter, phenomenal. I mean, it's perfect. I mean, you could do that standalone, and then that would be a self-contained story, right? That'd be an hour special right there. I mean, it was, but it was just that one was specifically. Flipping it back to the other thing I wanted to put a pin in, man. You brought up Jackie Chan. Jackie Chan was and still is my guy. Rumble in the Bronx was the first movie I ever saw of any kung fu stuff. I had a stepfather back in the day that he had this huge, going back to VHSs, ladies and gentlemen, he had this huge, like, you would open up this like closet in the hallway, right? And it was fucking ceiling to floor, fucking 2 rooms worth of shelves, and it was nothing but VHSs. So I got to see Steven Seagal for the first time. Steven Seagal is my guy. Chuck Norris movies, fucking Jean-Claude Van Damme movies, but the one in particular, and it just happened to be facing out, right? So the box was facing out, and I see this explosion and Jackie Chan standing there like this, and says Rumble in the Bronx. I was like,
Yeah.
what the fuck is this? So I put it in, and I just remember, like, I'm fucking 7 years old, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
a human. He is a superhero. Even
Yeah.
at 63 years old or however old he is, he's still a superhero.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's your first experience with Jackie Chan, because that was my first experience with Jackie Chan.
Yeah.
That was one of the first promoted of his movies, like English dub in American theaters, and they just showed these like previews and like, this is a guy that does his own stunts, and they showed that scene where he jumps onto the fire escape, and it's just like he literally just jumped from a rooftop to a fire escape. But it is funny, it's called Rumble in the Bronx. It doesn't look like the Bronx at all. It looks like downtown China. It's like, but it is funny. And you know, Rumble in the Bronx is a classic. You asked my favorite of those, of my favorite Jackie Chan movie, and oddly enough, my favorite Jackie Chan movie of all of them is probably Rush Hour 2. I very much love the Rush Hour 1 and 2. 3 is kind of bad, but I still kind of love it. Like, it's just kind of bad, but I still like, okay, yeah, these two are still fun. But 2 is actually like really good. It's got Shang-Chi from Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and stuff like that. So you know, really cool stuff for that one. That's probably my favorite movie of his. It's got, you know, it's really good. Although I haven't seen the one where he tries to kill Pierce Brosnan. That one looks dope. The Foreigner. I haven't watched that one yet. It's very, very recent.
Okay, I haven't seen that one either.
Yeah, I think it came out in like 2019 or something, but it looks really cool. It's basically like not something that he would normally do. It's very interesting. Love Rush Hour, but my favorite fight scene.
Not so much Jackie Chan, but fight scene in general.
Oh, in general. Okay, in general. Oof.
Of all time, favorite fight scene.
Ooh,
if you got to think about it, I'll give you a second, because I can.
Yeah, I mean, it might be. Oh man, geez. Like, there's so many. Like, me and my friend Steven Barnes, who's been on the podcast before, we have been trying to plan our top 10 fight scenes episode of the decade, back when, you know, the past decade was over. This is all the way back in 2020, when, you know, when the decade was then. But I like, it's been so hard to like get that together, because we have to like at some point sit down and watch all the fight scenes somehow. And it was all animated fight scenes, obviously, because, you know, Animation Destination. So we had to watch all the fight scenes, and it would just be like, you know, this whole mess of things. And then we had to rank them, and then we had to like talk about them. And it's just like, I have no idea how to logistically do that. I would love to, but I can't like logistically do that. But the ones that wouldn't be on that list, because it didn't even happen in this decade, Rock Lee versus Gaara from Naruto. That's the most baller like anime fight scene. Like, especially, not a single fight scene in all of Naruto, maybe Naruto versus Pain, tops Gaara versus Rock Lee. That thing is dope. It's so good, because you have Rock Lee, the best character, who can't use magic, basically. You know, they all have their ninjutsu and stuff. He can't use it, so he's basically just a physical beast, versus like the most like powerful like sand magic user. It's just so awesome, because this guy has like this ultimate guard up, and Rock Lee's got his speed, and it's just awesome. It's just the most awesome thing ever. You should absolutely watch it. And it was one of the first times, probably not the first time, but it was one of the first times that 3D backgrounds were implemented into an anime scene to get the angles to actually like you know, produced properly. Just the way that they move the camera in that fight scene's insane. So that's definitely up there. Honestly, from Arcane, Echo versus Jinx, that's probably up there too. From very recently, but that's probably because it's recently in my mind. But if I think back on it, it's probably still going to be in there. Man, favorite fight. That's crazy to me. You know, because I have so many. I love fight scenes, man. If you were asking my favorite Jackie Chan one, I definitely know which one I would pick, though. It would be from Who Am I? The rooftop scene where he fights the Japanese dude and the German. And
is that the one where he gets concussion or amnesia?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the German guy is not part of his stunt team, so he miscommunicated a bunch of like, wrong things. So a lot of the hits that he takes in that fight are real. Like the Russian just kicks him for real, like several times, or the German like kicks him for real like several times, because they're just not like, they're not simpatico with how their movements are, and he just gets real beat up in that thing. It's a real visceral thing, but it's just this cool fight where he's fighting this tall German dude with these lanky legs, and he has these kicks, like that's his gimmick. And then this Japanese dude who has like super fast fists, he's like Bruce Lee style fists, and he's just fighting this fist guy and this foot guy, and he's just fighting him on top of this rooftop, and it's just this visceral badass fight. It's so good. Absolutely love that one. It's fantastic. If you let me think about it, I could give you my favorite fight scene, but it's so hard to pick, because like I love the deeper meaning behind it. Oh, My Hero Academia, Deku versus Todoroki. That one is phenomenal. I absolutely
My Hero.
Yeah, like that one was like, I that was legit like one of the best fight scenes I think I've ever seen. It probably still is. It's probably a better fight scene than Dragon Ball Super, Frieza Goku versus Jiren, but nothing got me more fucking hyped than Goku and Frieza versus Jiren in Dragon Ball Super. That was the coolest thing I never thought I would see, or that I would be hyped for, like at all. I absolutely adored that. Oh, so cool, so cool. Man, I could go on, man. Like it just like there's so many fight scenes that are at the top of my head, and it's hard to pick them.
So I got a couple here. Whenever I think of fight scenes, number one, hands down, I don't think anything will ever beat it, is Daredevil, the first season, the hallway scene.
Yeah, that's a great one.
That scene,
rescuing the kid.
Yes, and then you hear that was all one shot. There was no edits. There was nothing spliced. So, and I think I can't remember if I read it or I heard somebody talk about it, or if I saw it on an interview, but I think that thing was shot like 3 or 4 times. And that's like a 12-minute fight scene where it's just, they fuck up at minute 10 and a half. They're like, fuck, we're gonna do this again. And like him going in there, and I think that's the one where because he takes the rope and he wraps it around his hands, because he's going and fighting Russians and shit. And then you see him like towards the end of that, he's leaning against there, and he's got like this smile on his face, he's got blood coming down his mouth, and then you see him like physically tired. And I'm thinking, when I'm watching this, I'm like, this is a hell of an actor, man. He is doing fatigue and exhaustion like I've never seen before. And then you hear you don't even hear it that season. You hear it like 2 seasons down the road, or you hear it when the Defenders come out. Like, yeah, that was all one long take, and we had to do it 3 or 4 times in a row. And I'm like, dude, like just that whole, like when I think of a fight scene, I don't think of anything there's more perfect than that, right? As far as live action goes. I'm glad you brought up My Hero, because My Hero is kind of what brought me into anime more so, because like I said, I started out with Dragon Ball Z, and then when you talk to like the real hardcore anime fans, if you ever brought up Dragon Ball Z back then, they're like, that's not real anime, man. You're not watching real anime. You gotta go watch this, you gotta go watch that. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure this is anime. He's like, nah, you don't know anime, right? You just don't know what you're talking about. This isn't even good. This is just mainstream. And I was like, fuck, man, if people think this sucks, I mean, they would show me some weird octopus shit, not tentacle fucking or anything like that, but they show me some weird shit, and I'm like, you like this over like this? Did you watch the Cell Saga? Did you see the same saga I saw? Cell Saga? I was like, you did, and you don't think that's anime? He's like, no, man, this shit sucks compared to this. I'm like, I don't know how to, like, we can't be friends because this is dog shit, dude. And I don't like shitting on things, but it's just like, I didn't understand it, and I still don't understand it. I wish I could remember what the anime was so I could sit out here and shit on it for a little bit longer and have an actual name for it. But it's like watching that, it's fucking perfect. But My Hero, dude, there's so many times where I'm watching the show and I'm in fucking tears, and I don't know why, other than the heart and the soul and just the acting that they do in the show is fucking phenomenal, man. There's a couple scenes that come to mind, and then I'll give you my favorite fight scene for My Hero. But the scene where spoiler alert, All Might's flame goes out, that scene, like I'm watching this during COVID. Like, we got sent home March 14th. I started watching this March 16th, right? So my wife's the only one working at her place because she was a general manager at her spot. So she was the only one working. They were working on limited hours. You couldn't even come into the store. If you wanted to shop, you could go online or whatever it was. It was in the really early stages of COVID.
Right.
And she would come home because they would close for 2 hours and, because they were trying to save labor and all this other shit. So she would come home for lunch. And we're watching this episode, and it's on that episode with All Might and All for One, and they're fighting, and you see him do what ladies and gentlemen, if you want to build a hero, take Deku, take All Might, take Batman, and really watch and listen to what they say and what they do. When they say they will leave everything on the table, that is what a real hero is supposed to be. The hero doesn't think about his body. The hero doesn't think about his bones cracking. The hero doesn't think about his emotional, his mental, his physical well-being just being broken and shattered and destroyed. He's thinking about that person she is thinking about that person that they're trying to save. That's what a fucking hero is. And then you see All Might, like I'm trying not to fucking cry now, but you see All Might give everything and his flame goes out. That scene is so fucking and it's not even my favorite My Hero fight scene, but I'm thinking about that fight scene and it is beautiful. Like so I'm sitting there, I've literally got my hands on my head and I'm like, dude, and he's not even my favorite character. Chris Sabat is my favorite voice actor because of Piccolo.
Right.
I'm sitting there and I'm like, please don't fucking kill this guy. Please. I'm my wife's looking at me and she's like, you realize this is fake, right? And I'm like, I really don't need negativity right now. I need all the positive vibes. I need All Might to come out of this. And she was like, it's fake. And I was like, listen, I've never fought a woman before, but we're getting really close to fighting.
I'm about to flip this table. Right now.
But I'm sitting there and I'm getting worked up and I'm on the edge of my seat. Like my palms are sweaty now thinking about that. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, dude. And I was like, I don't think anything could hit me as hard as this scene hits me. And then you've got Red Riot.
Yeah.
The fight scene with Red Riot and Fat Gun. And I'm just like, holy fuck.
Yes. They did that one so well. Because that was the first arc that I had read ahead in the manga, actually. So I'd been experiencing My Hero with everybody else, and then that arc, I was just like, I can't wait. I have to read ahead. I have to go read ahead. So I read ahead, and I was so insanely stoked for how they were going to do that, for doing the Red Riot Kirishima arc. I was just, and man, they nailed it. It was so good.
You think they're going to kill so many people,
right? Yeah.
So Baku Goat, as my buddy Ricky likes to say, greatest of all time, man. I love him. Like I flip flop. I just can't pick one. Like if I always try to cheat and say I'm going to pick one student, I'm going to pick one pro, and then I'm going to pick one teacher. Eraserhead's always been my guy. So when Eraserhead comes out, the first time you see him, I was like, oh shit, they got a stoner for a teacher. This is my people. Right? He's got bloodshot eyes. He's drinking a Capri Sun. He's laying in a fucking sleeping bag, and he's rolling to get the places. I was like, this is me. This is my people, right? He's got the munchies. That's why his eyes are red. And then you see him, and then I hear Bakugo, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm a lot like him. Angry, but I'd fucking fight for anybody I can, right? If you're my people, you're my people, right? I'll fucking die for my people. Yeah. And then Endeavor, dude. Yeah. Endeavor.
Dude, what a fucking arc that guy has. Like they did such a good job
holding the arm up at the end of that season.
The first time they introduced you to this guy, they want you to hate his guts, and they pull that off. What a scumbag. This guy's going to be a main villain by the end of this series. He's going to turn on the good guys and go for power and just all this bad shit, right? Like that's exactly where I thought that was going to go. I thought Todoroki was going to have to take out his dad because he gets aloof with power and he's on the villain side, all that. Nope. Completely 180 that. Made him a redeemed character, a redemption type character. Oh, it's so good. And they do, like, again, I'm ahead in the manga. Just you wait. There's more to come with Endeavor. Holy shit. Like it's so good what they do with him. Like it's one of the best arcs of a character ever, and people who like, hey, I love watching people react to My Hero and like they see Endeavor, oh fuck, this fucking Endeavor sucks, and I'm just like, yeah, he does, doesn't he? Yeah, he's terrible. He sucks. All right, you're never gonna like this guy.
You're poking the bear.
It's like you're never gonna like this. There's no way. It's so fun, so much fun because he just becomes so endearing. Like you get this idea that because people like flawed characters, and when you have somebody that is that flawed and that fucked up, but it was just this idea of this society that kind of like warped his brain, and this whole like drive for like being the best just warped him in the wrong way possible.
Yeah.
And it just got worse and worse, and him coming to grips with that and understanding himself for that, and alienating his children from it. And it's just like, man, so good. I absolutely love that character.
It really is, man. And what I love about that character is when you can see yourself in a character. I think that's a true mark of a true craftsman. No matter what you can, if you can see yourself in something, either you're very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? You're very, very in tune. That's not the right word. I just can't. It'll fucking come to me halfway down this conversation. But
right.
you're if you can see yourself into that character, right? And that's what I see with Endeavor. Every mistake I've made as a parent, I can see that, with the exception of splashing some hot water in my kid's face.
Right.
Just you see when you can relate to it, right? So I see Endeavor and I think, fuck, dude, I've been too hard on my oldest from time to time. Like, man, kids are going through some shit. It took me a little while. It didn't take me a little while. It took me a little while to get out of my own ego and out of my own way to sit there and think, oh man, everybody's going through shit. Even a fucking 12-year-old is going through some shit, man. And just seeing how he reacts and how he acts and all this other stuff. And I start seeing the stuff in Endeavor. I'm like, dude, is this one of those cautionary tales where I should learn from Endeavor so I don't have to make the mistakes Endeavor's made, and show a little bit more love instead of like tough love, right? So I'm seeing all of these characteristics in these characters, not so much just Endeavor, but I'm seeing so many things throughout these characters. And I'm thinking about this fucking guy that created all this whole world. I was like, he's a fucking genius, man, because he makes you feel, no matter how small of a role this cast is huge of characters. My hero is fucking amazing. Like, there's like 30 something characters that you're following through the entire series. And then you think like, oh, they're going to drop the ball on this character. No, by the end of the season, they've tied up every story to an extent that they were talking about, right? They've also progressed those characters to another level, no pun intended, went plus ultra, and then they're giving you another reason to either be afraid for these characters, be happy for these characters, or be uncertain for these characters, because you just don't know what's going to happen. I've seen them kill not so much my hero, but just anything in general. I've seen them kill popular characters. I mean, they've killed Batman fucking 13 times in the last decade. I've seen them kill Superman, right? If they can kill Superman, they can kill anybody in my hero, in my opinion, at least. And Superman's not even my guy. Right. But it's just it's such an amazing show, just for the simple fact that they suck you in with the story. And then the character development is what gets me. The story arcs, like we were just talking about with Endeavor. You feel for a dude that you think you're going to hate. And it's funny you thought he was going to be a villain at the beginning, because I still think, and I don't know why, maybe it's just I've been conditioned this way, I still think All Might's going to turn into a bad guy, even though I know it's not going to happen. You see a character that's inherently good like that, right? That's all they're pushing for. The first thing you think of is like, they're trying to put you at ease that this is the guy you can go to. This is Captain America. This is Superman. This is the symbol of hope, right? The symbol of peace. But then they're going to break your heart when they turn him bad, right? He's going to break bad. He's going to he won't sell blue meth, but he's going to break bad. And I don't know why I keep thinking about All Might turning bad. I think it'd be a great story if they did it that way. Like if he becomes All for One. But I just don't think it would work, man. But like I said, it's crazy to see yourself in these characters, and I think that's like I said, a true mark of a master at their craft is when you can see yourself in these fictitious characters.
Horikoshi is kind of amazing with that whole thing, and I hope that this continues after he's on his final arc right now in the manga. He keeps saying that this story will wrap soon.
Yeah,
but he won't say that it's the final story of my hero. So I'm hoping that there's like a Shippuden where like, okay, we get, like maybe 10 years later, we'll get to enjoy these characters again, like, or in the time frame, and we'll get more my hero stories. It's just, he wanted to put a repulsive a repugnant amount of positivity in this, is what he said. Probably the wrong word, but that's the translated word that they use, is like repugnant amount, because it was like he had two manga that was on Shonen Jump before, and they both got canceled. And after a second one got canceled, it had like a little bit of a run. It had like 25 issues or something, so it had a little bit of like of success. And then it got just like swiped out from under him real quick. Like sales crashed and he just went away. And it was just like, So he was just feeling real down on himself. And he just decided, I'm going to make something that is just every positive thought that I have. So he got out his Spider-Man comics. He got out all of his American comics, and he just started reading those, and he just made something that's like a positive spin on the Western hero type of thing. And that's what he created. And that's what everything is. Everything is just about positivity. You have these characters who are broken. You have Bakugo, who's broken. He's angry. He's narcissistic when he starts off. He's too full of himself because he's had nothing but praise his entire life up until that point. Now, when he's hitting challenges that he can't even overcome, he's breaking. Like he's visibly like breaking down when Deku beats him, in in the little verses things. He can't believe that this guy that he was so above is now beating him, and he can't handle that. So it could have been very easy to, again, turn him heel, make him turn into a Sasuke and make him go bad. But he pushed through that and said, like, no, this guy is the most determined guy in the world. He's not going to turn his back on his goal, which is to become the greatest hero. And that was his goal. And he's not going to give up on that. And even though he's this jerk, and it's one of my favorite moments in all of My Hero, is when he turns you on Bakugo. Because Bakugo, the whole time, he's had this attitude. He's been a jerk. He's been angry. He's been, fiery. He hates Deku. He bullies people. Doesn't remember people's names, an asshole. And then in one of my favorite episodes of My Hero, actually, too, is the sports festival arc, when they're doing the chariot race, where they're like, they all have to like be grouped up or whatever. And Bakugo takes command to steal back the tags from Class B. And there's this great moment of like Eraserhead and All Might are like narrating what's going through Bakugo's head, and it's just like, look, man, like you were going to settle with what the numbers you have, but that's not good enough to stop somebody who wants to be the best. And it's just, I butchered the whole thing, but go watch that episode. It's phenomenal. And it's just like that difference of like wanting to be the best. And he inspires his team with his crazy, insane, narcissistic ramblings. It's so fun because it flips. It doesn't change his personality. It just takes a different perspective of what he believes. And now you have that perspective of what he's doing. It's not about just him. It's about him wanting to be the best, and why that's actually virtuous to an extent, even though he's done some bad things to get to that point. And maybe he can be better if we just teach him, if we just cultivate him a little bit. And that's what the whole thing's about. It's about teaching. It's great. I absolutely love that show. So good. So good.
And you've dropped two wrestling references here.
Oh yeah.
In squash match. We talked a little wrestling. I'm actually wearing the American Dream Dusty Rhodes t-shirt.
Yep.
One of the greatest of all time, Mount Rushmore.
Yeah. See that?
What's that?
See that pec tear from his son on Hell in a Cell? See that?
I got to be real honest, man. For the last February was a very tough month. That was when we lost my father-in-law. Right. Ever since then, I've got them all recorded. Like I quit watching WWE when Braun Strowman was supposed to win the title, and then it was when Brock was on hiatus for like a year and a half, 2 years, and Brock comes back, and there was rumors rumbling, and this is like, fuck, dude, this is like 6 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever it was. When they came out and the rumor was Brock was coming back, and then this is when people were still booing Roman Reigns. I was like, oh, this is Braun was my guy. Like one of the funniest and best wrestling memories I ever had was when Braun and Roman were feuding, and then they're on the outside of the ring, and then you see Roman start running up the ring, and Braun Strowman picks up a fucking computer chair and chucks it 20 fucking feet and hits Roman at a dead clip. And I'm like, holy shit, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. And then Get These Hands. I still have the Get These Hands t-shirt. It's one of my favorite fucking t-shirts to wear because it always strikes up a conversation with somebody outside. They don't know what it is, and I have to explain to them. They're like, oh man, I laughed because I thought you were just trying to fight everybody. I was like, no, Braun Strowman can fight everybody. I just want to love everybody. I want to give everybody hugs, man. I don't want to fight anybody. I don't want to get hit. I've seen people fall and hit their heads. It's not good, man.
Right.
But I have, ever since my father-in-law passed away, I just have not been able to. I don't know what it is, man. I try to go back to it. And all I was watching was AEW. That's all I was watching. And then Cody leaves, and I'm like, fuck, man. Like, I understand why Cody left. He went out, and they told him he couldn't do something. He didn't want to do Stardust character anymore. He wanted to do Dusty. I don't want to say he wanted to do Dusty stuff, but he wanted to bring honor to that legacy. When you have a name like Rhodes, you have a name like Flair. You've got a name. I mean, I'm sitting here, I'm forgetting a lot of these people. You want to bring honor to that name, and they weren't letting them do that.
It's such a great story too with that, because you know, he literally, like, and that's why I think it was I was kind of shocked that he went back, but then when I thought about it, it was like, you're right, that's all he wanted. That's literally all he wanted. He wanted to be on the biggest stage of wrestling, WrestleMania, in WWE, representing his father's name. And he tried to do that several times. He tried to do it in the smallest way possible, of just getting a match with his brother on WrestleMania. So he's like, all right, fuck it, I'm making my own company, and me and Dustin are going to kill it on that one. And they have their first match where they tear it up, and they
tore the house down.
Amazing. Still probably one of the best matches that, it wasn't AEW at the time, but that promotion has ever done. It's one of the best matches they've ever done. And so to take that and then just prove to them, this is a name that can carry a show. And Vince and them, like, they just bring him back in. It's like, all right, it's just sort of that whole, like, all right, kid, you proved your point. Like, come on back. And then they give him pretty much everything he wanted in that case. And it was impressive. But I haven't watched WWE in a long time. I don't watch it regularly and a lot. I'll catch up with the Roman Reigns segments. I was a big Strowman guy too. I thought they dropped the ball on that. I don't know if he pissed him off or if he had some like attitude problems backstage. That's possible. I don't know. I don't know any of that stuff. But they dropped the ball on him completely. They absolutely should have put that belt on him like 4 separate times, and they didn't do it. It was bizarre. He could still be a top guy in that company right now if they'd done it. So I just sort of like checked out. They messed up the Fiend. They messed up Bray Wyatt. I just checked out with that. I've been so checked out with a lot of their stuff. So I'll just catch like the stuff that I've been enjoying. Roman Reigns, his whole comeback with the being the mafia boss, head of the table stuff. Fabulous crap. Love that stuff. And that's really what I'll watch. But my buddy Eric invited me to come watch Hell in a Cell just because he wanted to hang. I'm like, I haven't watched a WWE pay-per-view since I watched WrestleMania, but then it was Rumble, so I hadn't watched it forever. So I'll come watch it. And Cody Rhodes wrestles a full Hell in a Cell match with Seth Rollins with a torn pectoral muscle. I don't know if you've seen pictures of this thing.
No.
He literally takes off the jacket, like he takes off that side, and then he takes off this side, and it's just blood red all the way down his arm and all the way up his pec. And the crowd visibly just like they're getting excited and everything, and they visibly gasp and just shut up. Like no one's saying a word because like it's not makeup. He literally has a pectoral just completely off the bone. And he finishes a match like that. I can't imagine how many painkillers he was on during that. Because
I got to imagine that just the energy from the crowd, because that's what they say. They say you don't feel any of that shit during. Like there's been so many times, and I'm trying. I remember seeing you're not supposed to say something like this because of what he did. Chris Benoit was always my favorite wrestler before he did what he did. It's fucking it's so sad what happened. I mean, you think about what happened. His finishing move was a diving headbutt. He would do headbutts. So you've got head trauma. Nobody knew what CT. Everybody thought you ring your bell it's quit being a pussy, get up, pull yourself up, man. It's everybody gets a stinger every once in a while. They didn't understand what concussions were. But I remember the first time I saw like an actual injury and then somebody worked through it was Triple H, and I believe it was Stone Cold Steve Austin when Stone Cold turned heel, and then Triple H tears his hamstring, he tears his hamstring. And then it's Jericho and Benoit, and Jericho, like, he's talked about it on his podcast a few times, where because the finish was supposed to be Triple H was putting the walls of Jericho on the table and he was supposed to tap, and then Jericho knows that he's hurt. And you see so many times where Jericho, like, somebody will get hurt in a match and like Jericho slapping the referee. You saw it with Neville when he was back with WWE. Neville comes down and breaks his ankle, and then the ref's not paying attention, so he's literally grabbing the ref and shaking him. He's like, "You fucking idiot, he's hurt." And you see him, shake up the ref. And so he's very cognizant of when somebody gets hurt, because you're supposed to protect the people you're in the ring with. Arn Anderson says if you go in there with 5 or 10 fingers 10 toes, you're going to come back out with 10 fingers 10 toes. Your legs are going to be working, your arms are going to be working. That's the whole goal of a professional. And then to know that Triple H tears his fucking hamstring, and then Jericho knows that everybody knows he's hurt, he still gets up, and obviously he's hobbled, right? Obviously he's hurt, and then he tells Jericho, "No, put me in the fucking walls of Jericho with a torn hamstring." Torn quadricep, whatever it was. It was something torn on his leg. I failed science and anatomy and all that shit. So, but just to know that these guys are some of the toughest sons of bitches. All due respect when I say sons of bitches, toughest SOBs of all time, and they're sitting here doing this shit through the pain. Nothing but respect, man. Like I said, Cody was my guy over AEW. I loved him. I love MJF. I was so upset when I found out that CM Punk's pipe bomb interview was a work. It wasn't a shoot. Coming out like listening to that, and I'm like, dude, this is CM Punk really saying he can't wait till Vince McMahon dies? Like, what the fuck is going on? I was like, this is crazy. I'm an adult at this point in time. I should not be able to suspend this much disbelief. I'm like, they're really letting him talk there. You find out a couple years later, it's like, all that shit was they talked about. I don't know how much of it was predestined and how much of it was worked out, but a lot of that was worked out beforehand. And then you see somebody like MJF. MJF is, in my opinion, I'm gonna get so much heat, another wrestling term. I think by the time, and the only reason I say that is because Ric Flair is one of my favorite people of all time. I love Ric Flair. So this is no slight at Ric Flair. At the end of the day, I think MJF will be a better heel than Ric Flair when. Here's why. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Ric Flair got cheered all the time. The only time I've ever heard MJF get cheered is when he was in his hometown. And even then, you were still hearing people boo him. Right. So I hear this story, and it was the story. And do you ever listen to any of the podcasts for the wrestlers?
Oh, absolutely, all the time.
It might have been Arn's podcast, right? Conrad was talking about him hiring MJF, and then MJF coming over, and he was doing like a panel or something along those lines. And then this guy in a wheelchair rolls up, and then he starts talking shit to MJF. And then MJF never breaks character. He's like, well, look what I can do. And he's walking around on stage. He's like, look at me walking away with my 2 feet, like the whole Scary Movie thing. And I'm just like, this is the most perfect. If you want a piece of shit and that's the character you're playing, that's that guy. I mean, to tell Brody Lee's son, the Brody Lee tribute show, he goes on Twitter after Brody Lee Jr. hits him in the head with the kendo stick, and he's like, fuck that kid. And then every comment is like, dude, Brody just died. He's like, I don't give a fuck that kid. I'm like, this dude is gonna get shot, stabbed, and kicked all in the same night.
He is so good at it. Not only is he great at being a heel, and I think I agree with you. I think when it's all said and done, he will probably be the best heel in wrestling. It's hard to say because, like, Ric Flair, of course, was during a time when a lot of people didn't know it was a work. So it was that people didn't know that stuff. Nowadays, everybody kind of knows, but he still gets those good reactions. When you talk about it in like the terms of like playing a role or something like that. Like I think he will, because he has those people to stand. He's standing on the shoulders of giants in that way. So but he's learning, he's cultivating it. And even Jim Cornette at one point talked about like there was one guy who I worked with when we were down in, when he was doing a little bit down in Memphis with the NWA stuff with Billy Corgan. And he said there was one guy that was there, this is prior to AEW, who would ask questions about every aspect of what we were doing, and that was MJF. He would come over to the guys who were doing like just doing like the TV and like working out when we're going to hit our spots and everything. MJF came up, ask questions. What are they doing there? Why do you need to know that? All that stuff. He is determined to be the best he could possibly be at this, and he's just so naturally gifted at getting people to fucking hate you.
Yes.
Not only is he good at being a bad guy, he's good at being a bad guy while pretending to be nice.
Yeah.
Like I've seen him do bits where he's just talking to people who don't know he's a wrestler, and he's still talking like an arrogant asshole.
Yes.
And it's like, they're not a fan. You're gaining nothing from this. It's like a maid in a hotel, and he's just like, that's right, baby, I'm famous. Like he's like feigning being like a smarmy like asshole to this maid who's never gonna watch him in wrestling, but he's just keeping the character going. It's so good. He's so good at it. And sometimes and when you're that good at it, you don't know when the line is going to be blurred. Just like Punk is really good at naturally cutting a promo, which is why you would think without the cognitive thought of like, they wouldn't give him airtime if he's going to say all this stuff. But then sometimes like people will go a little bit rogue and go into business for themselves for things. So the way he delivers things doesn't feel fake. It doesn't feel scripted.
Yes.
And MJF has that as well. They're both very like real. They feel like it's coming from their gut. Yes. It's like they're mad, they're angry. Eddie Kingston's that way too. Eddie Kingston's great at cutting a promo. He's so good at cutting a promo, and he doesn't have the physical specimenry, but he does look like a mechanic that'll hit you in the head with a wrench. And
there's
a lot of fun.
There's a couple people on that roster. Eddie Kingston, like talking about this now makes me want to go back and watch the last 4 months that I've got recorded on the DVR downstairs.
Yeah.
But it's Eddie King. Like there's been plenty of times where I've just like, you know what, I'm just not going to watch wrestling anymore. You fall in and out of love with things, wrestling being one, because I was perfectly okay with just the one show. I didn't need a second show. Like I understand it from a business standpoint. You want to get as much content out there, but at a certain point in time, it's like the same thing with Raw and SmackDown. Raw had a champion, SmackDown had a champion. It waters down the product when you've got all these champions that I'm the best. No, I'm the best. And you're in the same company. Like, oh man, I get it, but at the end of the day, it's very hard to get into. But there's been plenty of times where I've like, you know, I think I'm done with wrestling, and then I'm just hanging out watching this episode. It's like what every addict says, man. After this one hit, I'm done, man. You're never gonna see me drink. You're never seeing me do drugs again.
Right.
And Eddie Kingston came on.
Yeah.
This was right after DMX died. And I don't think he had a promo about DMX, but he definitely dropped DMX in there a few times on what an inspiration was and how he looked up to him. And then just looking at him, when, like I said, when you can see yourself in a character, you relate to that character, and you will ride or die for that character. It's the same thing in animation. It's the same thing in sports, same thing in sports entertainment, same thing in professional wrestling. When you can see somebody that has so sure and cocksure is I guess it's a great word. When you know, like when you can believe, and you know it's fake, when you can believe that you think that whatever they're saying, they're actually going to go out and do that. You're like, dude, is this real? Man, Eddie Kingston, like I said, MJF are on that line. Those two guys have brought me back to the show. And that promo MJF did a few weeks ago, where he called Tony Khan a fucking mark. I'm sitting here and I wasn't watching anything, and then my phone starts blowing up by my buddy Jason, and he's knee deep in this shit. He's like, dude. And then my other friend Shane, he started to message me, and all these people that I talk wrestling with, they're all messaging me. He's like, turn on AEW now. And I'm like, dude, I'm in bed. I'm not.
Can I get your friends list? I don't have any friends who like message me about wrestling. I have like 3 other friends. okay, so we'll like watch pay-per-views, but they never like watch the weekly shows, or like we
Yeah.
never like talk about it. Ah, man, can I get your friends list? Anyway, go on. Sorry.
You can have them. They suck as friends anyways.
Most wrestling fans do suck as
Yeah.
friends. You're not wrong.
Yeah, they're shitty friends, not
Yeah,
just
they're shitty.
shitty people for sure.
Right.
But just like I watched that back and I'm like, fuck. And then I knew it was a work when they were like, he's been removed from the roster. I was like,
Right.
oh
Yeah.
I get this.
Yeah, which is fine. Because like they've been building this up, and like everything that comes from MJF, I just kind of think is a work anyway, because he never turns it off anyway. So it's like I can't ever. But so there's always that little bit where you think like, oh, maybe this is real. Maybe he's actually going to go to Vince or whatever. But it just like when I knew it was a work was after AEW's last pay-per-view, and Tony Khan had his little presser, and they were like, so what about the MJF issue? You know, it's like where he's like, maybe he's like they were talking about he was going to no show Wardlow and stuff like that. It's like, and they asked Tony Khan, crazy wide-eyed, talk about anything Tony Khan, any comments about MJF, and he said no comment. I'm like, bullshit. You have never not had a comment in your life, sir. This is a work.
Yeah.
you are working this. So, but yeah, that's it's great. It's great entertainment. I love AEW. Even like, you know, like there are people that kind of think AEW is like a perfect product, and it's got some
flaws for sure.
It's got some flaws. It always has, but like it's nice to have something new. It's nice to see like a different type of product that's out there that's doing something new and has
iron sharpens iron. You need company.
Yeah. Exactly. And I feel like WWE's just been dull for a long time, and they get that Saudi money, they get that NBC money and that Fox money, and they just don't give a shit about what they're putting on TV. Like I just like, and the only people that really get it are like the people who are like have that influence. You have Roman, who's got the Anawahi family, so like they get to do what they want. So here's Roman being like, I'm gonna be this guy and I'm gonna do this every week, and that's he's been the most consistent thing in on Raw. And on SmackDown, and he's been the best thing like in WWE for a while. So and they have little bits of things, but mostly it's just like fucking Happy Corgan. Like I don't give a fuck about any of this. Like I don't care, dude. Like I can't get behind any of this stuff. They waste Shinsuke, they waste Asuka, they waste all these characters.
I was so pissed about Shinsuke.
Oh, and I hear Shinsuke and Asuka, like they're older, they're in the twilight of their career, and they're perfectly happy just taking the paycheck. That's fine. But I'm an old New Japan mark, so when I heard Shinsuke's coming, I'm like, let's go. And then they just kind of do nothing with him, and he kind of simmers around. It's like, all right, it sucks, but you know, as long as Shin's happy, I'm cool. But you know, whatever. But it's
His
just
theme song is so dope,
so good. It
gets me so pumped. Like I didn't know anything about him. I had not watched wrestling in a long time. I got back into wrestling, so I'm from Orlando, Florida, so TNA was bumping down here. TNA, when they had that 6-sided ring, was one of the coolest things of all time, and then they get rid of it and go to the 4-sided ring. I'm like, you guys are idiots. You can't compete with WWE. The only thing that you can do is be different, and you took away the one thing that made you different. So I loved AJ. I love Samoa Joe.
Oh yeah, you know, I have a quote from that day when Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan introduced the new TNA ring and the new look of TNA, and I was just like, it's like, here's the new direction. We're bringing TNA into new directions. Here's a 4-sided ring and the Nasty Boys. It's like, congratulations, like this is your new TNA. Like fuck you, Hogan, get out of here. Like,
they didn't learn a lesson with the failing of WCW.
Yeah, seriously. And
just seeing Shinsuke come on for the first time, and then you hear, and then he goes right into the theme song. I'm like, dude, what the fuck is it? And this guy comes out, and I'm like, does he think he's Michael Jackson? Like, what the fuck is going? Like, and I'm
pretty much.
And then I, for the life of me, I can't remember who he had his first match with, and it's here, and I can fucking see it, but I just can't see it.
I believe it was Dolph Ziggler. Didn't he have Ziggler?
Dolph fucking Ziggler, which was another like I got into. I started watching WWE again probably 2013 is when I started watching it again. 2014, somewhere around there, because I was deployed so much. I got off deployment. I'm on shore duty. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to start watching wrestling, and Dolph Ziggler got me into it. Dolph Ziggler. I'm going to get heat for this one. the second coming of fucking HBK, man. Like he sold better than he was selling when nobody else was selling in WWE.
Yeah.
That's what gets you, man. You see the pain that these guys are going through. You see them happy when they win. You see them fucking pissed and sad when they lose. Like him, his facial features, like everything about him, like he's a great looking fucking dude. He's a stud. You know, looked like $1 million could wrestle his ass off. And you find out he's an amateur wrestler. And if whatever he wanted to do with whatever person, it was going to happen because he had that amateur background, right? And then that kind of led into, you know, I love seeing AJ. I love the Wyatt family. Bray Wyatt was so fucking underutilized, man.
Yes.
You can't sit here and say he's the eater of all worlds and he loses every single fucking pay-per-view match.
Goddamn match. Every big match. You can't do it. You can't do that. Like, and then he kept losing. And then they're going to reinvigorate him with the Fiend. And I'm like, all right, cool. And they bring him in and he's killing Finn Balor. He's killing all these guys. And then he gets beat up so bad by Seth Rollins in Hell in a Cell that they have to end the match. And that was the last day I had my network account. I cut it off that day, that night. I was like, fuck you. I'm done. like this is bullshit. Man.
Yeah, Shinsuke coming in, and then I was a fan, and then I was like, dude, are they burying this guy? I was like, he would win some, and this is not a dig at any of the talent because I can't do the worst style of animation I couldn't do, right? Yeah. You know, and that's not, like I said, it's not a dig at anybody because there's just stuff for you, there's stuff not for me. But when I'm seeing him lose to people I know he is physically better than, I was like, or
just even like people that haven't even been presented in a manner. Like you could say they have all the talent in the world. How are they being presented on the product at that time? Isn't even to the level that you would imagine that they would even beat Shinsuke. You know, it's like, or this guy hasn't been on TV in weeks. And like Jeff Hardy, who hasn't been on like 7 weeks, he hasn't been on TV, comes back, beats Shinsuke in like 1 week, and then Shinsuke walks away. Like, what? Why would that happen? Like, nothing against Jeff Hardy. Jeff Hardy's like always had plenty of great stuff in the past, and like he'll always have that, but he hasn't been presented as a star in any way. And here's a guy who has been, and you've fed him to this guy for no reason than just to get a cheap pop for a Jeff Hardy comeback. It makes no sense. And I don't know why you book it that way. It doesn't. It's crazy to me. It's crazy. And that's the biggest problem with WWE is that they don't really have any consistency with what they want to do. They seem to just forget what they did last week and just do what's going on this week. I always tell people, if someone wants to watch Raw, just catch up anytime. Just watch an episode. You'll be just as caught up as anyone that's been watching it for months because it doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter. They don't have consistency. Whereas AEW, I think, has too much consistency. I think Tony Khan sticks to plans way too much when he could learn to shift a little bit and go towards another direction that would really benefit the product because someone's they're moving a lot faster than they had planned, or like they're really getting a pop. You probably want to go this direction rather than let that simmer off and don't do anything with them, because otherwise you can lose it. So and he's done that a few times. I think Adam Page was kind of his title reign wasn't a great title reign because I don't think that they had it properly there. He didn't. The fans softened on him getting the belt. He was good chasing, but then when he got it, they didn't have anything lined up because they got Daniel Bryan, who was doing all the work in that feud. Bryan Danielson doing all the work there, and then. Again, physically, Adam Page is amazing in the ring, but there's something about him chasing. There's something about him being a fun-loving guy that people enjoy, and then he loses that when he has the belt. He tries to be serious, and it's like, I don't want Adam Page to be serious. Like, I want to be a cowboy. You know, it's like,
oh yeah, cowboy shit for sure, man.
Yeah.
One of my favorite. So there was what I loved about AEW was the fact that they were giving so many of the folks that did not get a fair push on WWE or have not gotten a fair push on any kind of indie. They gave them a home and they gave them a chance to either succeed or fail. It was all on them.
Right. Yeah.
FTR was one of them.
Yeah.
I'm so glad they got a shot. Greatest tag team. I'm going to say this right now. greatest tag team of all time. I know a lot of people go Arn and Tully. A lot of people go the Hardy Boys, or a lot of people Dudley Boys.
I'm a Dudley's guy. I love the Dudleys, but FTR is great.
My God, you want to talk about heat-seeking missiles? I love the Lucha Brothers too. Like fucking getting up there and them doing the fucking and then diving off of. I'm blown away every single time I see that. Like, I love luchador. Like, tag team wrestling is my favorite style of wrestling.
Same here.
Love luchador wrestling too. There was a point in time. Was it Lucha Underground? Was that
Yep. Lucha Underground.
So I couldn't think of the name. I was watching Lucha Underground every chance I got, man, because it was like a telenuevo, and then it was like a wrestling show. I was like, man, this is really fucking cool. I like this. I like this split that they're doing here. FTR was great, and one thing I'm so happy that AEW did, because he never would have gotten a chance over in WWE, was my man Orange Cassidy. I fucking loved, like, that was the first AEW t-shirt I bought. I don't think they would have killed that character. And I think if MJF would have went over before MJF did what he's done these last few years, I think they would have probably killed his character too, or he would have just gotten upset with the people. It would have been bad blood on both sides, because he just seems like he knows what he wants. He knows how to get there, and he doesn't really want anybody to get in his type of way. And I don't know the person,
right,
but that's just the vibe you kind of get from that person. He's got a goal set in mind, and he's going to achieve that goal no matter who stands in his way. And then the other person, she had the greatest women's match. And then I'll put this match up there. She had Mount Rushmore of matches I've ever seen. It was fucking Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, and Thunder Rosa at the unsanctioned match. I bought that t-shirt. That was the first women's wrestling t-shirt I ever bought. Like, her dripping the blood down on her face. And I'm just like, I'm watching this fight, or this match. And this is like one of the first matches where I've like rewound it and watched it over again. I was like, this is a masterpiece. This is art. This is perfection.
Yeah.
It was epic. Better than this.
Yeah, it was epic. It was fantastic, man. Like, I actually missed the Britt Baker belt. The like, I like the new one, but like, I don't know, something about the Britt Baker one with the little oval. I like that one a lot. It's a great show, man. And we've talked about wrestling a lot. We could probably split this into 2 podcasts.
Yeah, we probably could, man. And it's pretty close. You're an hour behind, right?
Yeah, I'm an hour behind. So yeah.
Okay, yeah. So it's about 10 o'clock, man. So we'll wrap this up. And like I said, I would love to do a part 2, man. This has been a lot of fun. Like I said,
absolutely.
You never know where these conversations are going to go. That's why it's called. I was trying so hard to come up with a name for this podcast, right? So hard. And the one thing I didn't want to do is what I've leaned into over the last almost 2 years now, is I didn't want to specifically talk animation. I talked about it a little bit on your podcast. Watching Ninja Turtles. I just want to talk Ninja Turtle stuff. And that kind of been like, I'd run out of people to talk to. So I like animation, like comic books, like movies, like this, like that. That's how this one came about. And then it wasn't until I'm sitting in the car, and then I'm pretty sure, like, I wish I could go back in time so I could steal the name of your podcast, because it's great. Animation Destination is such a fucking perfect name. So hats off to you for that one. But we're in the car, and my wife's driving, and then the Cranberries Zombies come on. Right? Nice. And it's on the chorus, and it's in your head. And then I'm sitting there, I'm singing along, and I'm not thinking about anything. I'm trying to think of an actual name. And my wife, her name is Katie, slaps me in the arm, and she's like, "That's what should be your name of your podcast." And I was like, "Cranberries?" And she's like, "No." I was like, "Zombies?" She was like, "No, listen to the chorus." She was like, "What's in your head?" And she was like, "You've always got this stupid, crazy shit in your head, and I don't want to talk to you about it. So that's what you should name it. What's in your head?" And I was like, I mean, I guess that's a cool name.
That's brilliant.
I mean, sometimes I like the name, sometimes I hate the name, but it's grown on me more.
That's great. That's your fucking Stone Cold moment, dude. It's like
her Stone Cold moment.
Yeah, well, but his British wife came over to him and said, drink your tea before it gets stone cold.
Yeah.
That's your name, and that's where he got the Stone Cold name. So there you go.
Dude, you just fucking brought it back to wrestling, man.
Right? I did.
That's the best animation podcast out there, man. So.
Man, I see. If I can bring it back to a cartoon or wrestling, I'll fucking do it, because I love both of them. So happens all the time. By the way, TMNT Revenge of the Shredder video game tomorrow. So
There's been a lot of
so-
a lot of people talking about it online. A lot of reviews are saying it's fucking what is it? What was the term? It was a return to something. Fuck. Return. I don't know.
Return to sender because it sucks. No, it's just a return to form, I would imagine.
That's it right there.
Yeah.
I've seen so many people saying that. So many of the articles that are coming out about it as a return to rare form or a return to form, some shit like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, we could go fucking talk another couple hours, but we'll split it here and come back on for another part too, man. But before we go, there's a couple things that I like to do. Obviously, when I have people on, I always ask them a couple of the same questions, like who inspired you and all this other shit, man. But two questions we've actually been doing a lot lately, and by we I mean I, is your Mount Rushmore. So you have 4 people plus 1. Now with this Mount Rushmore, I used to start it was just animators or writers or people in the animation field. But what I found out was there's so many people that are inspired. Like I've heard Van Halen on here. I've heard painters, so you don't have to keep it strictly just animation. But since you are the Animation Destination podcast, I feel like you're the 4th most person talking about animation. You're very intelligent when it comes up to this medium that we all love. So I got to imagine you've got 4 animators. So you get 4 animators. Like I said, they can't be writers, storyboard artists, or anything like that. So 4 plus 1 is your honorable mention. So who would be on your Mount Rushmore?
Okay, 4 plus 1 for my Mount Rushmore. Genndy going on there, hard stop. Nothing's coming off of there. So Genndy, absolutely. Man, I know there's got to be one of the main animators in Japan, but I'll leave them off for now because I could probably do a whole one of just anime producers for that one. But actually, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and say it. So we got Genndy Tartakovsky. It's hard to not say Walt Disney. I mean, he's not an animator per se, but he did so much for animation and did so much for that. So I definitely put on Walt Disney. He's got to be, you can put any of the, as we say, the 9 old men on there, but absolutely Walt Disney goes on for sure. Oof, man. And for personal reason, I'm leaning towards Craig McCracken. Craig McCracken's up there, but actually, who I'm going to say? Oh man, I can't think of her name. Who's the voice cast? Who's the woman who does all the voice casting of everything on the planet? That is going to drive me crazy. Is it Amanda Connors? Oh man. Let me talk about something while I look that up real quick.
We're going to talk about how you're trying to put this person on your Mount Rushmore. You can't name it. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
So is she just a casting director, or?
Yeah, she's the casting director for like literally everything. Is it Amanda something? I can't remember her name. It's going to drive me crazy.
Sorry, as soon as we get off this call, it'll come right back, and then
it'll come right back to me.
You're going to hit stop, or you're going to take off your headphones. You're going to flip the fucking table because that's. Flip the table. That should be the next name of our get together.
It should be the next one. Yeah. There's that. There's her. I'd put her on the voice casting one though. So you know what? I could probably do a whole voice cast one as well. So you know what? I'm gonna put Craig McCracken and Lauren Faust on there because I think they're of the newer breed and everything. But Lauren Faust, like, she has made hit after hit after hit after hit, and everyone needs to give her more work. Period. And I don't. Another one that Sony dumped, by the way. Yeah. They had her on for Medusa, and they were going to make a Medusa movie with produced by Lauren Faust, and they ditched that one completely. It was such a sad day. And then another one would be the writer, storyboard, director. I would definitely go with Aaron A. Haas, who did did a lot of the writing for Avatar: The Last Airbender and currently Dragon Prince. I don't know if there's anyone who does characters as good as him in animation.
Yeah,
maybe the guys that do Arcane, because good God, but like the characterization from Aaron A. Haas is fantastic. If you ever watched Avatar, all the best characters. If you ever watched Mission Hill, all the best characters. Like, just great stuff. And then great characterization in Dragon Prince, which is finally coming back as well. So yeah, absolutely. So that's my 5. I got Genndy, got Walt Disney, Aaron A. Haas, McCracken, and Faust. So there you go. So
beautiful. And then the second one we like to do is if you had 2 books that you could recommend as far as animation fans, if you got an animation, there's so many people that are in the animation field that listen to this podcast, and there's so many people that are trying to break into the animation field. So anytime we can give them some help on what to look for as far as books go. But you got any personal favorites when it comes to animation books?
Yes, there is the complete works of Alex Toth.
Oh man, I'm so glad you brought that one up.
Yeah, Alex Toth or Toth. I actually don't know how to say his name. But let's go. He's got a bunch of them, but we'll go with the one of the ones that I own that is fantastic. Genius Animated, the cartoon art of Alex Toth. He did all of the Hanna-Barbera stuff. He designed Space Ghost. He designed literally all those Hanna-Barbera things. Birdman, everything that you'll find on Hanna-Barbera's Super Adventure Show. He did
Thundar
all
the Barbarian.
Thundar the Barbarian. He did that one as well. He
Ones.
just literally everything, and it's just all this wonderful, great art that he did. And he's a prominent comic book artist as well, but he is probably mostly known for just all of the cartoon art of doing that. And that's definitely one I would like to throw out there for sure. Would it be too cliche to throw out the animation survival guide, the animator survival guide? Yeah, so there you go. Animator survival guide, which is actually fairly available now. It used to be very, very expensive and very out. The copy I have is like a busted up copy from a library that I bought like third hand off of some eBay thing, and it's just like I got it for real cheap because it's just a busted copy of this thing. But man, like it's definitely, if you want to get into animation, because it's a bit of a rough read if you're not wanting to do that, because it is very succinct and technical and just all about weight and putting on. This is the guy that directed Roger Rabbit, like this is the guy that made Roger Rabbit. So, it's like everything is so succinct and just so educational in how to do all that stuff. And it's things that I can't even fathom in learning how to do, because I try to draw more, but what a talent that guy is. It's just pretty amazing. So Animator Survival Guide absolutely is definitely on there for sure.
That book, I'm glad you brought up the was it Genius Animated? Was
yes,
the Alex stuff? Yes, I'm gonna once we get off this call, I'm gonna go ahead and buy that one, because I've been waiting to get an Alex Toth book, because his character design, second to none. It is beautiful.
Yeah, so it's one of the best. I'm knocking Craig McCracken off. Alex Toth going on my animation list. Sorry, Craig. Your wife stays on, but like I'm knocking you off, Alex Toth, because it just now hit me when you asked me about a book, because that's my favorite. It's my favorite animation book is that one, just because it's just he has this sense of realism. It's like the 9 Old Men. They have this sense of realism. You just bought we both just bought
Mark
Davis, and like looking through his stuff, like the way he can draw like wildlife and things like that just looks so real. But then you get to the face, and it's this fun, happy, cartoony face, and you just like the way he melds these two things together. Toth is the exact same way. It's just like he has realism and like body proportions completely right, but it's just so simplistic, because he knows animation, we don't need all these lines. We don't need all these lines here. It's we have to animate it. We have to get it like real simple. So it's brilliant. Genius stuff.
It really is, man. Like I said, I've really enjoyed this conversation, man.
Absolutely.
Very rarely do we get to go off the reservation and go. I think this is the first time we've ever talked Jackie Chan movies on this podcast.
Nice.
I mean, we've talked a little wrestling here and there on this one for sure. And obviously we've talked animation. We went super deep into Genndy.
Yeah.
But that, like I said, that's what's so fun about this meeting, because you never know where these conversations are going to go, and they're always fun. So like I said, I really appreciate it. I didn't realize it's fucking been 2 hours that we've been talking. So
that's fine by me, man.
Yeah, time kind of flies by, man. But as we wind down and wrap up here, man, where can the fans go and find out anything that Brandon's working on for Animation Destination, man? Plug
anywhere.
Your show.
Absolutely. Anywhere you can go. You can go to animationdestination.com. That will take you directly to my podcast feed. I am working on animationdestination.com as a standalone website. That will be coming soon. I've got I've got episode reviews all ready to go on certain shows that I've been wanting to do of old stuff. I'm basically just trying to create a repository of animation and stuff like that. I want to really I want to make it a destination, like that sort of thing. But animationdestination.com right now goes directly to my feed. Go check that out. Destinationcomics.com/DNN. That's where you can find all of our other podcasts on there. I'm sadly the only currently active podcast on there, but we're trying to get some more guys back in to get that revitalized. I talked to my buddy Brian a little while ago, who's going to probably bring some of those back. So destinationcomics.com/DNN. And you can also check me out on Facebook at Animation Destination. And you can check me out on Instagram. I'm not super active yet, but I will be more active on Instagram at Animation Destination as well. So there we go.
And then the last question, if you had, well, actually, this is two-parter real quick. So if you had one episode you think that you could hook people on your podcast right away with, what episode would you throw out there to say is probably one of the funnest times you ever had? And you can always say the What's in My Head podcast collaboration. That's
true. That was a good one.
But which episode would you tell fans, like, this is what this show is all about?
Man, it hurts to say it because I can't say the Star Wars Visions episode because I completely fucked up the audio of that one. That is my favorite episode we've ever done. And I botched the recording of it. It is listenable barely, but there's this giant reverb and it sucks. And I'm just so mad at myself over it. But that's one of my favorite episodes of all time. Really, honestly, if I had to point one out that was really particular, man, it's in any of the, honestly, Primal season 1 is a really fun episode. I talked with Mitch about that one. Me and Mitch have a good time. I loved our Arcane episode. That's me and Mitch as well. I guess Mitch is.
I like Mitch a lot, man. I've never met him, never talked to him, but you guys got a really good chemistry.
Great dude. Mitch is awesome. I hang out with him all the time. He's a lot of fun. Man, it's hard to come up with one in particular. I'm trying to think here. Any of the My Hero Academia ones are good. Oh, gee whiz. I'm trying to think of one that's really sticking out in my head.
You know what I'm getting? You know what I'm hearing from this is like all of your episodes are fun, man. When you listen to somebody that has so much joy and so much fun, that translates. When you get excited, man, I go and watch these. Just like I told you earlier, your latest episode with Love, Death, and Robots. I haven't watched but the first half of the first season, and I was more hyped after listening to the review or the ranking episode. You guys, it was like, dude, fuck, I need to hurry up and get on Suhi so I can sit here and either shit on Brandon because he's got horrible picks, or agree with or shit on his friends because they have horrible picks. So right. it's when you have that infectious just joy of something that translates, right? So I really enjoy your podcast. I haven't had a bad episode experience yet. I don't think it'll ever happen because you've had 300 and what are you on 304 episodes?
304, yeah. 304
yeah. So
episodes.
I mean, I haven't found a bad one. I haven't found a stinker yet, man. So
thank you so much. I appreciate that. And yeah, if I had one in particular, again, I think honestly, if you went and if you listen to the first ranking of Love, Death, Robots is a great one too. But I'll tell you exactly the ones that I will recommend. Okay, episode 99, and then from there go to episode 103, because that is one of my favorite things I ever did, which was March of the 80s. So I did a whole thing in March where I covered there were five Thursdays in March. So I was able to do 5 episodes for that. And I covered all of the top 80s cartoons.
Oh, that's cool.
99 was He-Man. 100 was my favorite, Thundercats. That was my first 100 episode. 101 was G.I. Joe, or 101 was Transformers. 102 was G.I. Joe. And 103 was the Hidden Gem Visionaries, which is an absolute love of mine from the 80s era of animation. Is another Hasbro one. And that's a fun little gimmick week where I do this little thing at the beginning where I talk about I do a lot of the same information that the Toys That Made Us did for their documentaries. And I'm really upset that like Toys That Made Us did it and like made it all famous. Like I talked about that stuff years ago, but yeah, that's definitely the 3 that that's definitely the time that I would tell you to go is go listen to He-Man Masters of the Universe episode 99. Definitely, that's the one. So
Beautiful, man. Well, like I said, this has been a real blast and a real treat for me. I can't wait to do this again.
Yep.
He's been Brandon with the Animation Destination. I've been Julian with the West of My Head podcast, and this has been another piece of your childhood. Good night.
My guest next week is Kyle Hebert, the voice of Gohan from Dragon Ball Z and Fat Gum from My Hero Academia. Enjoy the teaser.
You had a choice of taking thick gum or thin gum out to dinner. Who you taking out? And who's paying for the bill? That second part was my part of the question, but
I think I'll take out Fat Gum because he knows how to have fun with food. You know, all the muscle-bound, in shape people, they're not going to go too crazy. I mean, yeah, they're going to need lots of calories and carbs and all that, but it's not necessarily all the fun stuff with the creams and the gravies and all that stuff, all the fried stuff that hardens your arteries and gives you diabetes and all this fun negative health stuff. Let's just go out with Fat Gum.
Yeah,
because he's a big, lovable, squishy dude. There's a lot to love, and I imagine that he knows all the greatest restaurants to hit.
Where are you taking him?
Good God, man. I'm in LA. There's so much great food here. There's a local joint here in Burbank called Chili John's.
Mm-hmm.
Not normally a chili guy, but hot, spicy beef chili on top of rice.
Oh, that's the kicker.
Throw a little bit of apple cider vinegar on top just to cleanse the palate just a little bit. Some onions, cheese, and sour cream. Woo, that's good. And of course, sushi's great here.
Oh, dude.
You know, just load up on hand rolls or whatnot, man. I love spicy tuna, anything, salmon, anything.
Sushi and chili, man. That's going to be a smelly car ride on the way home, man.
It will. And then we have to get good pizza too. There's, you know, depending on what kind do you want. Do you want Chicago style? Do you want New York style? There's all kinds here. This is the melting pot, literally here.